Hello, this is Tia, and welcome to another video. Today we're doing another video reading in Chapter 6 of Clockwork Chronicles, Hermit Outcry. If you haven't read the first 5 chapters, be sure you do so, because there will be spoilers, and yeah, spoilers indeed. So, let's get right into the video. Do have to warn you, this might be a fun one. We'll see. Chapter 6, Impulse. Another day passed as Impulse glided back in front of Tango's base, knowing his friend and their escorts were just behind him as he glanced around the area. It had been a long day, trying to set things up to make the tunnels more secure, but he knew it was worth it as he stumbled to the front door, opening it as he slipped inside. "You sure you don't need anything tonight, Impulse?" Tango asked curiously. "Like, anything to eat?" "I mean, I could have something in my system, but I'm pretty tired." He stifled a yawn as he shook his head. "What about you? What are you doing?" "I'm going to go check on with a few people before calling in a night," Tango replied simply. "Just to make sure they're good to go and there aren't any issues." "They wouldn't attack right before bed, would they?" Impulse said wearily. Tango shrugged. "You never know." "Right," Hermit sighed as he went over to the stairs, just about catching Blake and Tyler disappearing around the corner, perhaps scouting around to make sure the base was secure. "See you in the morning for the next batch?" "Totally," Tango nodded eagerly. "We'll get this finished by the end of the week. In no time, if we keep this up." "Yeah," Impulse smiled as he took his first step up the stairs. "Try not to stay up too late this time." "Don't worry," Tango encouraged as the other hermit nodded. Impulse, now satisfied with his response, climbed up the stairs. A sense of relief filled him, knowing there was a bed not too far away that was calling him. A lot had happened today, not just doing redstone or setting up security systems. He had heard back from Rose, reporting that his kids had been relocated safely, and just in time as well. There had been an ambush by Mr. A's men shortly after Skiz had been escorted out of the previous safe house he'd taken shelter at, wherever that was. The men never found him. Did he want to keep it that way? Rose had assured him that the men would have difficulty trying to find him now, since he was in a lot more secure and trusted location. He knew he could trust her. After all, she had spent hours of her time keeping on a lookout for his friend after he told her about it. He smiled as he arrived at the top of the stairs, spotting the room he had picked for the next however many nights he decided to stay here. Perhaps until the men calmed down a little bit. So he wasn't sure if that would ever happen. As he walked toward the door, putting his hand on the handle, he could just about imagine a soft pillow on his head and the blankets that would keep him cozy. Well, knowing that everyone was safe and that the men couldn't possibly come for anyone tonight. Why would they? They didn't seem to even have a plan. The hermit opened the door, seeing the room inside for a moment. The plain white walls, the windows leading outside, the wide open, and a little breeze rustling the curtains away from the evening light, pouring in. Everything looked nearly as tidy as he'd left it. The sight only lasted for a moment. The hermit looked up, just as he saw a flashing object fall just above the doorframe as it hit the floor in front of him. He took a step back. He suddenly felt himself being thrown backward, just as the object exploded when making an impact on the hardwood of the room. The floor. Blah. This is a hard one to read. The force smacked the hermit against the wall as he began seeing stars in his vision. As he tried to scream, the wind was knocked out of him before he was given a chance to react. The floor crumbled beneath him as he fell, hitting the floor below. "Impulse!" Tango's shout called from another room as he groaned, managing to sit up as he glanced over to see the hermit charging in. "Are you okay?" "Fine," the hermit said, coughing as the dust settled before he attempted to stand. "What happened?" Tango asked quickly as he went over to his friend. The hermit looked up, just in time to see a shadow from the kitchen. His shadow was tall, wide shoulders, You couldn't get a good view of the details as the figure began to approach the two hermits. Tango, behind you! Impulse urged in warning as the hermit swung around, only to be tackled by the figure as it lunged towards him. Tango's holler of surprise sent the hermit successfully getting to his feet. Ugh. Hang on, ugh. Trying to ignore the pain of the blast as the debris still crumbled all around him. Get out of here, Impulse! Impulse. Wow. Tango said with a grunt as he attempted to toss the man off him. The effort was fruitless, however, as the man pinned him down, keeping the hermit from escaping his grasp. I'm not leaving you, Impulse insisted, as he lunged at the man on top of the hermit. They both rolled onto the floor as the man pinned him down. Fortunately for you two, you're coming with us, the man said with a sneer as he stood up. The dark eyes appeared clouded, yet stormed with a hungry rage. He loomed over the hermit, a smile crawling onto his face. He heard his friend cry out in surprise again, going to see Tango being thrown against the wall. Groaning, another man lunged at him for the attack. Both gasped as he felt a sharp pain in his head, as the world around him turned to nothingness, hearing his friend's faint call for help before they too drowned out. Impulse groaned as he opened his eyes to the darkness of night around him. He could see shadows lurking just beyond his vision as he blinked. A piercing headache, now prominent, a prominent guest. It seemed he could feel himself moving. No, he was being carried, probably over someone's shoulder, as he tried to look over, see if he could figure out who it could be. Are you sure the protectors won't try to follow us? An unfamiliar voice asked. Even if they do, they won't be able to stop us from just sending them through. And going with the plan. The man holding it reported simply. There'll be a lot more than two of us to deal with. Did we have to get him involved? Another one voice asked as the hermit turned his head to look at who was speaking, stifling a gasp when he saw the limp, bruised form of his friend over the man's shoulder. Part of him so desperately wanted to call out to his friend, but he knew that he probably shouldn't give himself away just yet. He had to figure out what was going on. He didn't have much time now. Jay wants to have some leverage for the other one, the first man stated simply, since he knows the YouTuber won't talk. Maybe seeing one of his friends getting tortured might soften him up. The hermit tensed, trying his best not to move as he took slow deep breaths. I couldn't get away with this. These men couldn't get away with this. Blake and Tyler had to be nearby. He had to find a way to stop these men somehow. He wasn't sure how he'd do it, though. What about this one? Ain't he related to this, or the man holding him asked? He's with Mr. A, or at least that's the plan, eventually. The first man replied, Just the process, my friend. It just can't go wrong. That's what you think, Impulse whispered, glancing over his shoulder, quietly as he saw lights ahead. They were approaching a lit portal. The surroundings didn't seem familiar to what he was used to, as he heard distant voices just beyond the trees, unable to make out any of them, even as they drew closer. It appears the others have arrived, the man finally said, having not heard him as they entered the clearing. The hermit looked over to see 3 more men, one of them carrying an unconscious grin over his shoulder, as the hermit bit his bottom lip. The other hermit didn't seem to be harmed in any way, luckily. Now, though, he had to figure out how to get both of his friends out of here, against 6 men. He needed to do something, bide for time, distract the men, maybe even escape. He couldn't get away and leave his friends to deal with whatever fate the men had planned for them. Everything is going according to plan, one of the men reported. This one escort is also being quite cooperative, so I don't think we will have to worry about a slip-up. Better not, the first man warned. Mr. A certainly wouldn't be pleased if his prize was able to escape before he could have a chat with him. Hand him over, so we can deal with the other 2, the other voice replied. Very well. The second man stated, as he felt the man moving forward, just as he began to lift the hermit. Impulse took the moment, kicking the man in the abdomen. As the man wheezed, falling backward, the hermit used the momentum to launch himself onto the earth as he scrambled to his feet. "Grab him!" one of the men shouted, as Impulse lunged for the man holding Tangle, tackling him as his friend fell to the ground. The hermit was grabbed by a hand as he yelped in surprise. The force pulled him back as he groaned, landing hard on the ground as he looked up to see the figure looming over him. "Did you think you could outsmart me, Hermit?" the man said darkly. "No, but I could try," the hermit said as he scrambled away from the man, as another one of the men cut him off from trying to run. The hermit stepped back, finding himself backed up to a tree. "Oh, such a pity. A valiant effort. To what end?" the man mused as he narrowed his eyes. The hermit looked up as he saw one of the men carrying Grian through the portal as his blood ran cold. "Let my friends go," the hermit said firmly as he lunged toward them, only to get shoved back. He hit the tree hard as he groaned, crumpling to the ground. "Impulse!" a familiar voice cried as he looked up, seeing Blake and Tyler charging in. "They're taking Grian and Tango to Archie. You have to stop them!" Impulse gasped, falling back to the ground as one of the men kicked him back down. "There's no stopping fate, Hermit," the man replied with a chuckle, lending out a hand to him. "Your friends are getting what they deserve, as will you, do them." "No," the Impulse replied, shaking his head as he saw one of the men carry Tango through the portal as the two escorts charged into the clearing. Blake was attempting to get to him. Tyler was going for the portal. Fortunately, they were both being kept back by two of the men, and Impulse felt himself being dragged to his feet. "No! Nothing you can do to save them," the man mused with a chuckle as the hermit was tossed over his captive's shoulder. He heard Blake calling out his name as the two men ran off into the trees, taking him with them. The hermit cried out, unable to do anything, as he watched the two escorts fighting, wondering what would happen next. Pain began to overwhelm him, turning his world into black. I'm sorry to do this to you, but that is the end of this video. I do hope you enjoyed, and yeah, I will see you in chapter 7. Whatever that might be. Probably next week, if this keeps up. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you later. Bye.